Hello children, so we move on to the part 2 of our lesson, the thief's story. Anil was asleep. A beam of moonlight stepped over the balcony and fell on the bed. I sat up on the floor considering the situation. If I took the money, I could catch the 10:30 express to Lucknow. Slipping out of the blanket, I crept up to the bed. Anil was sleeping peacefully. His face was clear and unlined. Even I had more marks on my face, though mine were mostly scars. So we get to see that, Anil was fast asleep and there was a beam of moonlight. Beam means a ray. There was a ray of moonlight which fell over the balcony and fell onto the bed. So Hari considered the situation. He decided what the situation was going to be. So he thinks that if he took the money, he will be able to catch the train to Lucknow, which is at 10:30. So he slipped out of the blanket and he crept up to the bed. Crept is go quite silently near to the bed. Okay, and Anil was faster. He was sleeping quite peacefully, and his face was very clear and unlined. Clear and unlined, that means quite peaceful his face was. So, Hari says, whereas on his face there were more marks. That is, these marks were mostly scars that was there on his face. My hand slid under the mattress, searching for the notes. When I found them, I drew them out without a sound. Anil sighed in his sleep and turned on his side towards me. I was startled and quickly crawled out of the room. So, Hari slid his hand under the mattress, searching for the notes. And when he found them, he just drew or pulled those notes without any sound. And Anil sighed in his sleep and he turned on his head. Sighed is, it is that, that audible deep breath that you give when you are relieved or when you are sad or when you're tired. Okay, so that is the meaning of sighed, and that kind of startled Hari. Startled is kind of shocked Hari that he just crawled out of the room. When I was on the road, I began to run. I had the notes at my waist, held there by the string of my pajamas. I slowed down to a walk and counted the notes. 600 rupees in 50s. I could live like an oil-rich Arab for a week or two. So we get to see that Hari runs away from Anil's home, and once he was sure that he was a little away from the house, he counted the money that he had taken. So he found that there was a total of 600 rupees, all in 50s means 50 rupee notes. Okay, all 50 rupee notes it was, but altogether there was 600 rupees. And he claims that he could live like an oil-rich Arab. He is comparing himself that he could live like a rich person for almost a week or two. When I reached the station, I did not stop at the ticket office. I had never bought a ticket in my life, but dashed straight to the platform. The Lucknow Express was just moving out. The train had still to pick up speed, and I should have been able to jump into one of the carriages, but I hesitated. For some reason I can't explain, I lost the chance to get away. So we see that Hari, reaches the railway station and he does not buy a ticket because he has never bought a ticket in his life. So he dashed quickly to the platform. Dashed is quickly run towards something. Okay, and the train was just about to move out and it was about to pick up the speed. And it would have been quite easy for Hari to jump into the train. But what happened was he hesitated. Hesitated is he took a pause, in indecision. He paused for some time because he didn't know for what reason. He couldn't say for some reason, he couldn't explain, and he just lost the chance to escape. When the train had gone, I found myself standing alone on the deserted platform. Deserted platform, empty platform. I had no idea where to spend the night. I had no friends, believing that friends were more trouble than help. So he hardly had any friends because he felt that having friends might get him into more trouble than receiving help. And I did not want to make anyone curious by staying at one of the small hotels near the station. The only person I knew really well was the man I had robbed. Leaving the station, I walked slowly through the bazaar. So here we see that, Hari didn't have anywhere to go. One, he didn't have any place to spend the night. He didn't have any friends, and he did not want to, check into any of the hotels near the station because, a 15-year-old boy checks into a hotel. Obviously, it will be curious for the people. And the only person he knew very well was the man he robbed, which is Anil. And he left the station. He walked towards the bazaar. Bazaar means market. In my short career as a thief, I had made a study of men's faces when they had lost their goods. The greedy man showed fear. The rich man showed anger. The poor man showed acceptance. But I knew that Anil's face, when he discovered the theft, would show only a touch of sadness, not for the loss of money, but for the loss of trust. So, here in this particular paragraph, it is very important. Please make a note of this particular paragraph. It is very important in this lesson. Now, Hari describes how in his career as a thief, he had a very short career as a thief. So, in his career as a thief, he used to study people's face, and especially when they had lost their goods, when they had lost something. So, he says that the greedy man always showed fear. When the greedy man had lost something, he would always show fear. The rich man always showed anger. And the poor man showed acceptance. The poor man accepted the fact that he had lost something, whereas the rich man would always be angry for losing something. And the greedy man would be afraid that he might lose more. But Hari was very well aware of Anil, and he knew that when Anil discovered about this particular theft, it would be quite devastating for him because Anil's face will show sadness, not because he has lost the money, but because the trust has been broken by Hari. The trust that Anil placed on Hari was broken by him. So, on Anil's face, this sadness or this expression of sadness will be coming only because Hari had broken Anil's trust, not because Anil had lost the money. I found myself in the Maidan. Maidan is a park, and sat down on a bench. The night was chilly, it was early November, and a light drizzle added to my discomfort. Drizzle, a light rainfall. Soon it was raining quite heavily. My shirt and pajamas stuck to my skin, and a cold wind blew the rain across my face. I went back to the bazaar and sat down in the shelter of the clock tower. The clock showed midnight. I felt for the notes. They were damp from the rain. So he took a shelter at the clock tower, and he felt the notes that he had kept safely. Now they were damp or wet from the rain. Anil's money. In the morning, he would probably have given me 2 or 3 rupees to go to the cinema. But now I had it all. I couldn't cook his meals, run to the bazaar, or learn to write whole sentences anymore. I had forgotten about them in the excitement of the theft. Whole sentences I knew could one day bring me more than a few hundred rupees. It was a simple matter to steal, and sometimes just as simple to be caught. But to be a really big man, a clever and respected man, was something else. I should go back to Anil, I told myself, if only to learn to read and write. So, we see how Hari is quite regretful for what he has done, and he sits and he thinks of all that good things that happened in his life, when after he met Anil. He was sure that, if Anil had the money, then Anil would have given him probably some money to watch the movie, and he also realizes what he has lost. He wouldn't, right now he had much more money, and he will not have to cook meals for Anil or even go to the bazaar or to learn to write whole sentences. But in this excitement of stealing, what happened was Hari forgot the essence of education that he wanted. Okay, he knew that, while learning whole sentences, that can actually help him in earning a few hundred rupees, So he sees how, or he tells how it is a simple matter to steal and probably simple to be caught, but to be a big man or to be a successful person, a clever and respected person, then it requires much more than the simple easy tricks. So he decides to go back to Anil only for learning, only to read and write. I hurried back to the room, feeling very nervous, for it is much easier to steal something than to return it undetected. I opened the door quietly, then stood in the doorway in clouded moonlight. Anil was still asleep. I crept to the head of the bed and my hand came up with the notes. I felt his breath on my hand. I remained still for a minute. Then my hand found the edge of the mattress and slipped under it with the notes. So Harry was quite nervous and he hurried back because he was nervous because it's quite easy to steal from someone, but to return something that he had stolen without the person detecting it undetected, without the person knowing it, it was quite difficult. So Harry slowly got into the room and it was a clouded moonlight, or it was earlier there was a beam of moonlight, but now it has become a clouded moonlight which is less clear. Okay, it was less clear now. So he slowly crept towards the head of the bed and he tried to keep the money under the bed. And Harry felt Anil's breath on his hand and he kind of stood stiff. Okay, he stood still for a minute and he slowly slipped the notes under the mattress. I woke late next morning to find that Anil had already made the tea. He stretched out his hand towards me. There was a 50-rupee note between his fingers. My heart sank. I thought I had been discovered. I made some money yesterday, he explained. Now you will be paid regularly. My spirits rose, but when I took the note, I saw it was still wet from the night's rain. Today we will start writing sentences, he said. He knew, but neither his lips nor his eyes showed anything. I smiled at Anil in my most appealing way, and the smile came by itself without any effort. So, here we see that Anil pays Hari 50 rupees and tells that Hari will be paid regularly. Okay, and Hari says, my spirits rose, which means that I was quite happy. Okay, Hari was quite happy, and he found that the note was still wet from the previous night's rain. And Anil does not question Hari at all. He does not even pretend that, or Anil does not make any form of comment or anything regarding the note being wet. He just, he acts quite natural and he says that they'll start learning how to write sentence. And Harry was aware that Anil knew about all this. His lips or his eyes didn't show anything of it. And this time, Harry gave Anil his most attractive smile, which was a very natural smile and Harry didn't have to put in any effort to make that particular smile. See, what does the conclusion tell us? Now, the conclusion shows that, Anil does not question Hari about the notes being wet or, where Hari was. Nothing, no such details were questioned by Anil. So, it shows that Anil still trusted that boy. Now, what happens if Anil had complained about the boy to the police? The boy would have obviously ran away from there. Or he can even, if he's punished for his crime, or his previous crimes, what happens is he could be put in prison for a long time. That will only create a very probably a negative side. Probably that boy might turn into a more negative character might pop out of him. So Anil didn't want that to happen, because while teaching Hari, Anil found that there was some goodness in this boy. See, that is why he continued to teach Hari. Okay, and Hari's interest in education also must have given Anil a hope that there is chance for reformation in this boy. So that is one reason for the climax where we see that, Anil just pretends or Anil just behaves as if it was a normal day in their life, and, there is there's nothing new or nothing bad had happened. He doesn't show anything on his face, and he is again, he's acting very normal, and he says, come on, that, let's do our writing lessons today, let's start writing sentences. So it's not that Hari is being, say, encouraged to do something, but it is giving Hari an assurance that Hari can trust Anil, and it is this trust that helps Hari to bring about a change in himself. See, it was Anil's trust and his kindness that made Hari to return the money to Anil, isn't it? So, same way, it was kind of the same way that when he does not question Hari about the notes being damp, so it kind of gives Hari the confidence that, he can take this time, the time that Anil has given him to educate himself, and also think about a respectable life that he could lead in the society without anyone knowing what his past profession was. So Anil's silence and Anil's not acknowledging Hari's crime was an assurance for Hari to not repeat that crime ever again. Okay, so Hari would have decided not to commit such crimes ever again in his life, because there was a man in this world who trusted him completely and who was kind enough to give him education so that he could lead a respectful life in the society. So we can have such a reading for the climax of the story. Okay, so with this we come to the end of the lesson. Thank you.